Okay. Michael, are you ready?
Yes.
Ready? 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 Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the South County Fire Board of Commissioners regular board meeting for April 1, 2025. I'll call us to order and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, board members, you have in front of you the draft agenda. We don't have anything to add to the agenda. Anything else for the agenda? All right, I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented. Second by Commissioner Teofilak. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us then to the consent agenda, which includes the March claims voucher totaling $1,741,037.25 and the March 2025 payroll summary and authorization. I'll move the adoption of those two items in the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Fernhoff. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda items. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. That moves us forward in the agenda to item number 5, which is approval of the meeting minutes. Tonight we have the meeting minutes for March 11, 2025, the work session, March 18, 2025, regular meeting, March 2025, March 25, 2025, special meeting. And so I will move the adoption of those 3 sets of minutes. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lawrence. It's been moved and seconded to adopt those meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, next we have a public comment. Any requests for public comment? We'll start first in the room and then move to our Zoom platform. Any public comment first in the room? Any requests for public comment? Any requests for public comment? Not seeing any requests for public comment. Let me turn it over to Ms. Blankenship to check our Zoom platform, see if there's any requests for public comment on the Zoom platform. Ms. Blankenship.
There is no one requesting comment.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Blankenship. We'll come back to the room. Any requests for public comment? Not seeing anything. Thank you. We will move forward then in the agenda to the fire chief's report. And we have Chief Isotelo and Chief Anderson here tonight. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. We've only got one thing tonight on the chief's report, which is some really great news about a South County fire employee. So I'm going to ask Christy, to tell you what it is. Yeah, thanks.
We are very excited to announce for the first time publicly that Shawnery Guzman, our community outreach manager, has been named the National Fire Protection Association Fire and Life Safety Educator of the Year. I don't think anybody is going to be super surprised by this. To say that we're lucky to have Shawnery is a severe understatement. I wanted to share a little bit with all of you in regards to the nomination process and some of the wonderful things that have been said about Shawnery in recognition of what a great asset she is to the South County Fire team. When we got the official notice from the NFPA, they said, quote, "There were many qualified and prestigious nominations, and I'm pleased to say she rose to the top." So again, this is out of all the nominations across the country, Shawnery was chosen. So her impact is far beyond our organization and far beyond even Snohomish County. She received official letters of support in this nomination from the Washington Public Fire Educators, from the Director of Safe Kids Washington State and from the Washington State Association of Fire Marshals. She also received support from the manager of the Snohomish County DUI and Target Zero Task Force and the project manager for the Washington Child Passenger Safety Program. And here are a few things that those people said about Shawnery in the nomination process. She is remarkable, dedicated, talented, and giving. Her commitment to traffic safety in our region has been meaningful and impactful. She's an excellent example of understanding the community's needs to improve education outreach. Shawnery has made her career about making safer communities. I can't think of anyone more deserving of this award. So I'm going to read you a little bit about what we wrote in the nomination for Shawnery, and this is just a little bit about the work that she does. Shawnery is an innovator, an advocate, and a world-class educator who is saving lives in our community and beyond. She started her work for Safe Kids Worldwide in the year 2000, later becoming the president and coordinator for Snohomish County and a leader for Washington's Child Passenger Safety Program. We are fortunate she decided to bring those skills to the fire service. In 2020, Shawnery was named Outstanding Safe Kids Coordinator in Washington. Months later, she was named Educator of the Year by Washington Public Fire Educators. Shawnery is an advocate and a resource for educators, firefighters, and community partners. She is certified as a child passenger safety technician and instructor, a fire and life safety educator, and a youth fire setter interventionist. She serves on local and state committees that include president of the Snohomish County Fire Prevention Association, Snohomish County Child Death Review Team, the North Region Injury Prevention Committee, Safe Kids Washington Advisory Board, Washington Public Fire Educators Board, and the Snohomish County Traffic Safety Task Force. She is quite busy. In addition, she has created and teaches courses in numerous injury prevention categories, including aging in place, car seat awareness, child safety and CPR, disaster preparedness, ACT, and workplace emergency preparedness. Shawnery's ability to form and foster community partnerships allows for countywide resource sharing, consistent educational messaging, and a robust support and resource network. Her innovation and passion for implementing behavior change has allowed our agency to be at the forefront of community risk reduction efforts in Snohomish County and inspire education efforts across the state. Shawnery means a lot to a lot of people, and we are just so fortunate she's part of our team, and we congratulate her on this well-deserved award. So for this award, she will receive a $1,000 stipend. South County Fire will also receive a $1,000 stipend to spend on our fire and life safety education efforts. So thank you, Shawnery, for that. And she will be recognized at the NFPA Conference and Expo in Las Vegas in June. So congratulations to Shawnery.
That's great. Oh, yes, Commissioner Fernhoff.
I just want to say congratulations to Shawnery as well. You know, on behalf of the board, I don't think I really understood the scope and the depth by which she has influenced the community. Of course, we see her at open houses and are grateful to have her and her energy and her light. And it's nice to know that she has spread that across the land as well. So we extend our thank yous and congratulations.
Commissioner Lawrence. Are you on?
I don't know. Is it working?
Here, you can borrow that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Shawnery is enthusiastic. She's really brings a lot to brings that. Shawnery is everybody in his organization has impressed me over the years. They're all into their jobs and really like working here, which is really impressive. Everyone. I'm just proud to be a board member of such a group of people in general. And Shawnery is definitely one of the enthusiastic employees for sure. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else for Chief's report?
There's nothing else.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, that moves us forward in the agenda to our legal report, and we have our attorney, Rich Davis, on Zoom with us. Good evening, Mr. Davis.
Good evening, Commissioners. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I wanted to give a heads up that, so I've been doing this for over 30 years, about 33 years. And I think my longest vacation was 2 weeks at a time. And this year I decided I would take a little bit longer of a vacation. So I'm calling it a sabbatical, even though it's not really that long, but I am going to be gone from about the middle of July to about the end of the first week, full week in August. So about a little over 3 weeks. And so that's the longest time I have been gone. And my partners who preceded me at the firm always talked about taking a sabbatical, but frankly, we never had the bench to be able to do it because we needed, still need to get the work done. I wanted to assure the commission that we are working internally to make sure that South County Fire's work will continue to get done while I'm gone. I probably won't be checking in that much given the nature of my time away, which I hope to spend a lot of climbing over in Europe. But we have a number of people, as you know, who you've met, who work in the fire and EMS practice group. We have, and everybody in the firm does municipal work. So we have the capacity to keep the work going during my absence, and we're taking steps internally to make sure that there are no gaps. But I did want to give the commission advance notice of that and let you know we're doing what needs to be done to make sure that the work continues. So
Great.
with that, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Great. Great. Any questions? Commissioner Fernhoff?
Yeah, could you leave us your address and phone number just in case we have, just kidding. I hope you have, use a rope when you climb, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Oh, Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, Rich, that's good. You take a nice long vacation. As long as you don't come back here someday and say you're retiring, not until until I'm done anyway. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
well, thank you for that.
Good.
Great. Thank you. Okay, that moves us forward then to our union report. And I believe we have Union President Pat Moore with us. President Moore, good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. Kind of doing double duty tonight, trying to attend this, and then my kid's got hockey practice I'm at right now. So I don't have much to report on tonight for you guys. Short of that, we're still busy, obviously working down in Edmonds as we're coming down into crunch time. So, but outside of that, I think that's all I have for you, unless you have any questions.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for President Moore? No questions.
Yeah.
Great. President Moore, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
So that moves us forward in the agenda then to item number 10, which is unfinished business. And we'll start with the 2024 annual financial report with our Chief Financial Officer, Chris Bothwell. Good evening, Mr. Bothwell.
Good evening. All right, so we're bringing this report to you a couple months ahead of our normal schedule. And the reason for that is that we have worked with our auditors to negotiate a new expedited timeline for our audit and to get our audited financial statements issued. And so they found an opening in their calendar for field work in April, which meant that we needed to submit our report early, about 2 months early. So we submitted the report last Tuesday, so on March 25th. The audit planning is currently underway. We expect the field work to start in April, and then we're targeting May for audited financial statements. So last year, you may recall, it was December, so quite a bit earlier this year. So the summary financial results for 2024 is that all funds met their fund balance and reserve targets. So we have 3 that have a fund balance or reserve target. That's the general fund, the emergency reserve, and then the healthcare self-insurance fund. All other fund balances were healthy at year end, including the capital funds, LEF 1, medical, and compensated absences. So all of the trends that we saw in 2024 were positive, with one exception, and that's the self-insurance fund. But the trend in the self-insurance fund was consistent with expectations. So it's not super surprising. And we brought some information about that as we started to identify that trend. We brought that forward to you. And so I'll give you a little more detail on that tonight. So for revenues, 2024 revenues held up really well. Our general fund revenues exceeded the forecast by $7.2 million. The bulk of that was from ground emergency medical transport or GEMT revenue. That was 4.2 million of the 7.2. And that was the result of higher costs associated with the new-ish labor contract, and then a bunch of capital expenditures. And that cost report was from fiscal year 23. So that's July of 22 through June of 23. So sort of old news at this point, but those costs are what caused the reimbursement for GEMT to be high that we received in 2024. Another bright spot was investment income. We exceeded budget by $1.5 million in investment income. And obviously that was a result primarily of a rate environment that was really favorable for us. But also we changed our banking relationship and got some new tools there that helped us to earn some additional investment income. And then we fully implemented the new investment policy, which helped too. So as a combined, that was the result of those three things combined. We received an additional $1 million in transport revenue above the forecast. And what we received in transport revenue in 2024 was consistent with what we saw in 2023. But you may recall back in 2022 and 2023, where we're seeing those numbers increase as a result of some operational changes that they had made related to reporting. And so that sort of stabilized in 2024 at that higher rate. But the budget, the way that our revenue policies for budgeting revenue are pretty conservative. And so it exceeded budget by $1 million. We also saw a positive variance in property tax, a negative variance in fire marshal contract revenue, and that's just a result of the new contracts that were signed in 2024. And then there was a number of other little adjustments, including grants that kind of rounded out the $7.2 million. So in 2024, expenditures also had a positive variance. So the general fund expenditures were significantly under budget at about 7%. So full disclosure, that is outside of the 2 to 5% that I reference as being the sweet spot. So there is the planned underspend that is sort of that 2 to 5%, but we also had savings from cyclical hiring adjustments. And what I mean by that is that we entered 2024 with all of the 20 positions that are considered kind of overhires that are allowed, that the chief's allowed to hire by policy for planned attrition and just normal attrition. Those were all filled when we entered 2024. So we didn't hire in the spring academy, and then we had a smaller academy in the fall. So both of those contributed to the underspend. And then, of course, we had normal attrition through the year, so that also contributed to them. I have a note that operations overtime was $350,000 under budget. That's about 7% under budget. I just put that on there because the board's typically been interested in where we are with operations overtime. It's not individually significant, though. And there were no new trends that we identified in 2024 in expenditures. So it was sort of in a lull. We were coming out of 2023, 2022, and 2023, where we had really high inflation. And now there's a lot of economic uncertainty, but 2024 was sort of predictable and stable. So the combined general fund result is that we had a surplus of about $11 million. That's a big number, but it is really close to what we forecasted during budget development. So it's about $200,000 off of what we were forecasting during budget development. And then the 2025 budget allocated some of that because we were expecting it. And so about $4.5 million establishes the revenue stabilization fund this year. And then another 2.2 of that was allocated to underfunded apparatus. First, like 3 apparatus that we had on order that we hadn't fully funded. The other funds that we have are unremarkable, except the self-insurance fund. And I've got a couple slides on that. So revenues in the self-insurance funds, this is our healthcare self-insurance that we provide for employees and retirees if they opt in. The revenues are stable and predictable in this fund, but the expenditures can be unpredictable as the vast majority of them are from healthcare claims, and those are just inherently unpredictable. And we had several high-value claims in 2024 that caused more than a $1 million single-year deficit. And then our stop-loss policy also kicked in and funded another more than $1 million. So it was a difficult year for the self-insurance plan. There's no immediate action that's required, but staff is updating the self-insurance financial plan. And we don't need immediate action because we ended the year still satisfying a reserve requirement in the self-insurance fund. But I just looked today because we've ended the first quarter and the trend is continuing. We're drawing down fund balance pretty rapidly. And so we're preparing to bring an update to the financial plan with you. So I wanted to give you a quick slide here on just what to expect with respect to that update. it's very likely that we will see an increase in stop loss premiums. We've had 2 years now, we've already hit stop loss on one claim, and they're paying out over $1 million already this year and over $1 million last year. So we're likely going to see an increase in those premiums. We also are likely to propose or likely to request an increase in our rates. So we pay as if we were a commercial, as if this fund, the self-insurance fund, was a commercial payer. We pay out of the general fund during every payroll premiums effectively to this fund. Last year, in the middle of the year, because we had always just increased them by 8%, the rates that we charge ourselves, we have an actuary that we have a relationship with, and I went to them and just asked them to basically confirm, to do an analysis, and I thought they were going to come back and confirm that the 8% is appropriate. It was just sort of a due diligence exercise. They actually came back and said we're about 7.5% low on what we're charging ourselves in 2024. So in dollars, that's about $500,000 a year. So we're likely going to come back with a recommendation to increase our rates that we're what we're sending over to the self-insurance fund, just to get us realigned. And then there's going to be a recommendation to add to fund balance. So the surplus that we saw on the previous slide, there's going to be a recommendation to allocate some of that to the self-insurance fund to shore us up for some of the drawdown from last year and the drawdown that we're seeing already this year. So that's just a heads up. We'll bring you a fully baked plan, but I wanted to give you an idea. We have a pretty good idea what the different components are going to be. And so I wanted to just give you a quick heads up on what those are likely to look like. And that's it. So I'll take this down, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
A question from Commissioner Furnoff and Commissioner Lawrence. Commissioner Furnoff.
Thank you, CFO Bothwell, for the detailed report, because that last slide was exactly what I was going to ask you, was about our premiums going up and that kind of thing. So I was getting excited that we had 11,000, or excuse me, 11 million in surplus, and then my world went poof. So, but thanks for the clarity on that. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Lawrence. Mr. Bothwell, I just, maybe I was a little unsure. The 7% underrun is it a 7% underrun, or is it 7% overall? The 11 million represents 7% of the budget.
No, the 11 million is a combination of the sort of the revenue that beat expectations and then the underspend in the general fund.
So the underspend is the 7%.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And is there, that's been one of the things that I've been interested in, is the underspend. And we've talked about that previously, and that is higher than it has been recently, although maybe not historically high for overtime at South County Fire. Do you have any, would you do anything differently, thinking back to, because you know what the answer is now. Would you do anything differently on the front end?
So with respect to how we're forecasting overtime, or just the overall underspend?
Overall underspend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. So we want to be in that sweet spot of 2 to 5%. So that should accomplish. So the things I described about the hiring situation that we had last year, it should, in a normal year, that should be part of the underspend. That should just be something that isn't a big deal. So we were a little high in the budget in other areas, and then it was kind of sort of compounded with that. So I think we need to, I mean, my reaction to that is that we need to tighten up our personnel budget a little bit. And that would be sort of the one thing we would do. I would offer that the number $11 million of surplus looks like a huge number. And you can see we've already allocated some of that to some places where we actually needed that. Some of that when we see the peaks and valleys and we end up with a surplus, and some years we'll have a deficit and stuff, those surpluses are really important. Because we don't tend to, because our revenue sources are all recurring. We have very few revenue sources that aren't. And so we have some one-time expenses like we had when inflation affected the cost of apparatus, and we needed to shore up that. So those one-time revenues, those one-time kind of surpluses that we get, they're very useful to us in maintaining really good financial condition. It also gave us the opportunity to put some money aside for what we know is coming with GEMT and some of those other things. So yes, we want to tighten it up, and we want that to be a tighter margin. And I think it's in personnel for us, in operations personnel. And we'll work on that. We'll continue to work on that as we go through the budget season in 26. Yeah, I guess the message is that surplus is definitely useful and something that we sort of rely on in like, financial cycles. So not necessarily a bad thing, even though it's outside of that sweet spot.
Great, thank you. Other questions for Mr. Bothwell? Okay, super. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us forward in the agenda then to item number 10B, which is our South County Fire Organizational Roadmap. Tonight it's going to be a volunteer program planning with Chief Isatella. Chief, good evening.
Good evening again. Okay, so we'll start off. This is kind of the first slide that you've been seeing each week. We've talked about different subjects on the operational roadmap. So next slide, please, Chris. Tonight, we're talking about the volunteers. Obviously, they fall under the column of human resources. Next slide. So what conversations and what ideas have we been talking about at the executive leadership team level, as well as with the volunteer lieutenants, getting some input from them. We're talking about how to add purpose and mission to our volunteer program. So as you all know, for several years, we only had 4 volunteers. We've had some very successful recruiting. Last time we talked about the volunteers, we were telling you that we were going to probably go over our budgeted 24. And with a couple folks leaving, one getting hired here full time and a couple going their way with other departments, we're right around that 24 number now. So the things that I'm going to bring up tonight are conversational. And there's a bit of planning and a little bit of what if. I do have on this slide, you'll see that I have a labor disclaimer. So obviously some of these we'll need to work through with the local and bring them in on the conversations and the impacts and such. So I just want to put that out there first. But again, these are just conversations that chiefs had, that I've had, that the executive leadership team has had, and that we've had with the volunteer lieutenants. So the first one is the fire chief would like to double the number of volunteers. So currently our volunteer SOG and budget were the range of 18 to 24, and we would like to see that more like 40 to 48 volunteers. So that would be the first one. Next slide, please. The second is this idea to potentially add a second response vehicle in the north of the RFA. So as you can imagine, at certain times of the day, most days, it's difficult for folks to get from the northern part of the RFA down to the center of Linwood at Station 15, where the air light unit is kept. So sometimes they struggle to make it down there before it leaves and goes on the alarm. And now that we have so many volunteers, sometimes there's not enough seats on the apparatus that are down there. And so we've had an idea that potentially we could start out with some type of support vehicle, most likely that we already own, and find a place to park that in the northern part so that the volunteers could respond to that station and then get in that response vehicle and then go directly to the scene. The idea would be is that we could get more people volunteer-wise to support some of our larger scenes and some of our longer scene times, so larger fires and larger events or windstorms or different things. So it would create that second vehicle to get more volunteers to the scene. And then, we'd probably look into what type of vehicle would support them the best. Maybe it's not an SUV or a sedan, and maybe there's some type of utility vehicle or something that we could put some amount of equipment on that might be useful for the program. And so that would, obviously be researched by logistics and such. And then we'd come forward and see about funding that. Next slide, please. We've talked about adding a wildland component, again, purpose and mission. And what we would do here is the potential would be is to interested volunteers, it wouldn't be all of them, so just the ones that were interested in wildland training and potential wildland deployment, we would be able to support them in getting their red card training. And the idea would be potentially to purchase 2 more brush trucks. And what that would leave us with is 1 brush truck that would always be in the RFA for use in the RFA, and then 2 that could be deployed. And the idea would be is that we continue to deploy the number of paid staff that we deploy, now. But in addition to that, and to support that, we'd also have some volunteers that we could send out as well. And so that's why, you know, potentially having 2 brush trucks that could be deployed with one that would be staying back. Next slide. The next thing that we've talked about, this one's a little bit more complex. Staff's had conversation over the last few years about how can we hire people from our community that don't have their EMT certificate. So that don't have any experience at all, that are interested in the fire service, but don't have an avenue or the funding to be able to go get their EMT. And so this idea would create that opportunity so that we could reach out to those people, we could get them to apply. And what we would do is have them join our volunteer program. So we would vet them to a certain point through HR. They would then join our volunteer program, and we'd get them their EMT training through the volunteer program funded by the RFA and the volunteer program. Once they complete their EMT, we could then put them on the hiring list. And at the next hiring, they would be eligible then to get hired and brought on as paid staff and go to academy and such. So in addition to this, this would create, I think, a recruiting opportunity within the organization and an avenue for people that otherwise wouldn't seek employment here. I think also that this would create a relationship change between our volunteer staff and our paid staff in a way that when people are hired through our program, there's better recognition of the program and the people that are in it. And the more that we hire over the years from our program, I think that relationship would change for the better, potentially. And so that would be another opportunity that we might see through a program like this. Also, you've heard that I've been working on some regional training opportunities. And I think there's an avenue within that program that we could partner with some of these other departments. I've asked a few of the other fire chiefs around that aren't doing this. Would you be interested in maybe having an EMT class through the regional training group once, twice a year? And that would help drive the cost down. We have the people to teach the class. We have the instructors and we have the space. We just need the students. And so we could partner and have a lower cost for everybody. So anyhow, that's that idea that we're working on. Next slide. We've discussed how can we create an opportunity for volunteers to be able to go out and do actual fire and EMS response. As you know, in our program, there's support volunteers. And so what we've been doing is working this thought through, and we've actually been asking a few of the smaller departments in Skagit and Snohomish County, departments that we regularly hire volunteers from that for paid staff, the what if. What if we could partner? What if we could, you know, we buy the gear and the firefighting gear and such for our volunteers. So what if we could partner and they could be volunteers in both agencies? And those that wanted to could go and get their firefighter 1 or firefighter 2 and get their firefighter training. They'd have their EMT and they could pull shifts and they could respond with that agency, but then also be a support volunteer here at South County Fire as well. And there's some interest out there. And so we want to continue to explore this option and work it through. So initial discussions are already happening. There's definitely some interest. Next slide. And lastly, and this one's already happening. We have so many volunteers now when we only had the 4 and now we've got 20 some, is we're being able to expand our public engagements. There's a lot of things that we had to cut back on because there was just too much ask of only 4 volunteers to make all kinds of events. And so they made the big ones and they made all of them. But now we've got so many volunteers that we want to go back to being able to do some of the stuff that we just couldn't do before. So working with the community outreach program and Sean-Marie, we've already started, and there's some great ideas from the volunteer group. Lieutenant Cannon has a lot of ideas to be able to get back into full community engagement. And, you know, like I see Commissioner Lawrence, you're kind of looking at me like, what are you talking about? We get requests for birthday parties. We get requests for a drive-by for somebody for their birthday, whether it's normally a kid, but sometimes it's elderly folks as well. And so we just don't have the resource and we haven't been able to do that. And so now that we've got the people, we want to try to re-engage with some of those smaller items that are so meaningful to the community. And so we're brainstorming and we're seeking out those opportunities, and their calendar's full and it's getting fuller. I just recently had the PUD for a Touch a Truck event up in the city of Everett, that they asked for a unit to go up there. And so we got the Airlight unit on the roster for that. I had heard, and I haven't confirmed this, but I think the Touch a Truck event in Mill Creek, I heard there was over 5,000 people that attended. They actually had to go out in the line of people that were waiting to go through and kind of draw a line because they were running out of time for people that would make it in time and those that wouldn't. Unfortunately, the numbers and the community engagement, it's crazy. And it's, as you know, it's so valuable. It's difficult and always has been difficult for the paid crews to commit to these things because emergencies happen. And our volunteer group gets signed up, they show up, they look professional, they look like all the rest of us in Class B uniforms, and they engage the public. And it's really neat, and I think we're very fortunate to have that, and it's a huge part of the program, and so we want to grow that side of the program. So next slide. So that's it. So any questions?
Commissioner Lawrence and then Commissioner
Oh,
Furlong.
yeah. Well, what about the schools, going into the schools?
Yep.
That's part of.
Lieutenant Cannon has a lot of ideas that
that's
he used
the-
to do a
that's-
lot of that.
Right.
Yep.
Which we haven't done a lot of lately, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah,
Yep,
that's
that's-
future recruits there.
That's on the list, sir.
Commissioner Furlong.
Thank you, Chief, for the update. I really do appreciate just kind of overall holistically the Chief's vision, your contributions, staff really leaning into the program. I think that's amazing. As you know, Air 15 remains like the centerpiece or the attraction to that program. So if there is another kind of vehicle that you're looking for or that kind of thing for the North, and it makes some sense from a couple of different points of view. And one of which being, an emergency manager in my other life is that we do have what they call population islands following an event. And if we have apparatus to the north that volunteers can access and step in as a force multiplier, allowing our crews to focus on the life safety missions and then taking over some of the other duties without having to get across I-5, which is now collapsed, and getting to Station 15, that makes total sense. So, yeah, and I think that's, just part and parcel why people are attracted to this program. Myself, that's what I thought, was really cool, is that you got to go on fire scenes and do these kinds of activities. We've had a number of volunteers that I've worked with that have expressed their appreciation for having such a metro-sized department still maintain that volunteer access point, and they see it as a point of recruitment and share your vision. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you to everybody that's been involved in supporting it. And I think it's a great opportunity with the Wildland program for those that are going to be potentially hired to work side by side with the people that we trust with our lives every day. And when they see the value of those people that you're diligently screening out, all of the ones that may not exactly make the cut, but the ones that we do, we definitely would welcome into the family. So thank you, sir.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, there was a lot of good ideas. Or somebody's been doing some work. Who gets all the credit? There you go. Okay, good. So,
No, it's a team approach. They're not all my ideas.
yeah, that sounds very ambitious. And there's a certain particular former board member that used to be a fire chief somewhere who would be totally jazzed to have heard that. In fact, I'll tell him to go look at the online and see what's going on, because before I was ever a twinkle in the eye of any fire service, he had been telling me about, yeah, we need volunteers and we need to have the guys going to the grade schools because, if you don't get the culture of the fire service into the younger people, then there won't be anybody later and stuff. So he'll be totally jazzed to know what's going on here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Teoflag.
For the volunteer program, do you know if there's any, do we receive any grants right now to help with that program?
We don't. It's purely funded through the RFA.
Do you know if that's a possibility to help with?
Specifically, I don't.
Okay,
It's something that we could look into, but
gotcha.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Other questions for Chief Estelo? Chief Estelo, I did have a couple of questions for you. When the idea that, multiple interesting ideas in there, but one that definitely caught my eye was training volunteers to the EMT certification, and then once having that, then a list to be hired full-time. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How might that work?
Well, we still have to work that through, but my idea on that would be is they would apply to be employees and full-time firefighters with South County Fire. And our HR would then be able to work them through the preliminary phases of testing and that. And so at some point then, we could offer them a position as a volunteer to be able to get their EMT. And then what we would do is once they have their EMT, then finish that vetting process with whatever else, so then move into the conditional offers. So if we had two lists, one with folks that had applied to be firefighter EMTs that already had their certificate or paramedics, and a list that would be these true entry level, no experience, brand new EMTs. And then what we could do is make a decision to hire a combination of both, because coming into the fire service and going to a fire training academy is a lot to take on at once, especially when you have no experience. So if I can blend those two groups together with people that have some experience and those that have none, we'll have better success.
Well, and I don't want to say guarantee, but the notion that, a number of individuals from that list that come through and start from the ground up, get the EMT and get hired on, that's like not one in a million, but like it's going to be multiple, is a powerful incentive that will, when you initially said, oh, increase to 40 to 48, I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do that. But with that hook that you're talking about, now I can see that, because that is a huge incentive for folks to be part of it. Because if that was another route into becoming a full-time firefighter, that would have a lot of draw, I think. So that's an interesting. I have not heard that before. I find that very interesting. So and very creative. That's good. That's very interesting.
So
great.
I'll share with you, I've interviewed every volunteer that we've brought on since we had the original 4. And the folks that are getting into our volunteer program that want to become firefighters are coming to us because they want to work specifically for South County Fire. And this last 8 that we just brought on, all 8 want to work for South County Fire. And that's why they've committed to our program. And a few of them have EMT and some of them don't. And as you will recall, Penny Coyne has helped us out, and she's paid for a few people to get their EMT out of our program. And we've paid for a third to get their EMT through our volunteer program. So in a way, we're kind of already testing this and trying it out. But I strongly believe this will be a very powerful recruiting tool for South County Fire.
And then it also has an advantage for us, because we get an opportunity to work with that individual over extended months or even a number of years to find out, are they a good fit? Because sometimes you don't know that in a week or a month, but you're going to have a better sense of that over 12 months or maybe 24 months. So that opportunity to have more exposure to make sure it's going to be a good fit probably results in higher retention, better quality, because not everybody is going to be a good fit, but we want to have, at least in my vision, we want to have that opportunity for people to see if it does. And you kind of referenced it in talking about the volunteers. I think you mentioned that one of the current volunteers was being hired to another agency.
Mhm.
You know, in my mind, that's not a failure. That's a success. If we are providing the human resource that ends up being a firefighter in another Snohomish County or King Snohomish, somewhere around here, another agency, that's a win for the fire service. It's not a negative for us. And so I think that's an interesting opportunity too, if we're able to accomplish something like that. And then you talk about kind of leveraging that in with something that I've talked about previously, which is potentially working hand in hand with some other fire districts. I hadn't thought of Skagit County, but that's actually a great thought. But I was thinking more of East and North Snohomish County that rely on volunteers for actual response, and the ability to partner with them to give that opportunity for to actually go on responses, but not from my own self-interest at South County Fire, but not lose them to Sultan or Sky Valley, because that's a real incentive, like to actually do that work versus maybe what we can offer, but we can offer different things. And particularly if one of those is that pipeline to a full-time position, that's a real incentive to keep them on board. So, and then offering the wildland piece, just offering some other pieces that will work in our current format, could really leverage our advantages in a way that could get us to that 40 to 48 and have it really be a robust program. So it's very interesting.
To your point about we're going to lose a few, that's come up in conversation, and I'm okay with that for the same reason. So I'm glad to hear that you see that the way that I do. That's okay. That's going to happen. There's also a certain amount of loyalty when these people know South County Fire, and they know who we are and the family that we have here, and they want to be part of that. And then we pay for their EMT. There's going to be a certain amount of loyalty with people to maybe wait it out a little bit longer, knowing that they're on our list and have a potential to get hired full-time, and make that dream come true for them. So there's going to be a few that are going to go other places, and that's okay. I really think that that's okay.
Yeah.
As far as working with the other departments, I see this also as a way for us to give back, because we've hired a lot of personnel from those smaller departments over the years. And so maybe if this is a way that we can help bolster their ranks or help them out when their numbers are low, then that's a way that we can give back and help, maybe fund their programs a little bit through our people and some of the equipment that we purchase. So I think there's some great opportunities out there for our volunteer program to grow and connect with our community and our full-time firefighters in very different ways in the future.
Yeah, interesting. Commissioner Furnoff.
I think this is a great opportunity and a really good discussion. A couple of things I wanted to touch upon was the wildland program. For those that don't quite understand what that means, it's during large campaign fires, the state will do what they call state mobilization, which gives the opportunity for the district, for the RFA, to make money by sending their brush truck, and then volunteers that are put on the brush truck, and Chief, you correct me if I'm wrong, are paid directly by DNR. So it gives them a little bit of experience, time out on the line, and then a little money in their pocket. But I'm assuming that'll be a partnership, I hope, with labor, and we're working with President Moore to vision that and help guide us in the conversation about how we can get our represented staff and our volunteers to sort of integrate in that effort. At least that I look forward to that discussion. As somebody who is recently separated, for those that don't know, I've separated from the volunteer program here at South County. And the effort here is to focus more on the commission position, to where I can do some things that are maybe a little high level rather than the actual operational piece. But that time in grade really gave me some granular insights in how we can do things, both from the volunteer program, but also just see things in regular daily operations that we might be able to help our line staff out there do the job more effectively. Either through funding or through those requests that come in, we're just inform the board in a better way that when you ask for something, it's not just a simple, nice to have. We know that you need it. And so that's put me in a better position. So I look forward to this. Do you have a timeline that you have framed into this at all, that you want to 12 months, 24 months, anything like that?
Well, since it's part of kind of the roadmap project, I anticipate that you'll be hearing more as we put wraps on this and where it fits in to the whole plan. So I'm not going to be able to tell you 6 or 12 months, but I think that would be fair, that some of the stuff could probably start to happen sooner. And then some of it's going to take a little bit longer as we work with our partners. So
Excellent.
yes, I would hope 6 to 12 months, we could have a handful of these on their way and developing, and within a couple of years, hopefully have, the majority of them instituted if we get there. So
I'm excited. Thank you,
yeah,
Chief.
thank you.
Chief, I wanted to mention one more area that might be just a thought about being fruitful, kind of as a seasonal thing. Because to at least in my opinion, to some degree, the community events are somewhat seasonal, generally better weather, more community events. But there's another season that has a certain amount of risk. We don't get lots of calls, but there could be great opportunities for prevention, and that is our marine environment. And potentially having the volunteers more involved off the Edmonds waterfront or at the Port of Edmonds, because we don't, we only respond to our fireboat and go out. There is potentially an opportunity to do something more, whether it's with that vessel or another vessel in some other capacity. And maybe there's a way also to partner with Mukilteo, because they may have some issues. I'm just thinking of the large expanse of beaches, Edmonds around the ferry, both north and south, but also Mukilteo on the beaches, and some ability to perhaps, just as I'm just thinking, there's a vessel that's working between the two, that's staffed by volunteers in the summertime, like Saturdays and Sundays, big boating days, big days when people are out in the sun on the beach. With our growing density, we're only going to have more people on the beaches and more kayakers and more people in boats. And that's only going to become, there'll be more risk. The risk isn't huge, but the risk is there. And there's an opportunity for, when we talk about prevention, there's an opportunity for more prevention. So I just want to put that bug in your ear about when we talk about other resources that we could generate. I could see us also generating some other resources in the marine environment that could be really interesting, kind of more in the prevention world, but could be a nice fit for that resource, because it could take a lot of person hours to do that, but that might be a nice fit for that unit. So anyways, just a thought.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the roadmap tonight? Okay, Chief Taylor, thank you very much. Okay, moving forward then in the agenda to new business. We're on to new business, item 11, starting with 11A. And this is going to be the request for approval of the Microsoft Enterprise Licensing Agreement. And we have our IT manager, Chris Gronville. Good evening.
Good evening. All right. I will try and keep this as brief as possible, but I want to make sure I'm getting all the details in here. So we are currently engaged, or we're at the tail end of our current Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, which covers all of our cloud licensing, email, SharePoint, Teams, all that good stuff, as well as on-premise, or a lot of our server licensing, and several other Microsoft applications. That currently is up for expiration May 31st this year. And we've been working with CDW, our Microsoft partner, to come up with a good option for renewal. We obviously are not getting rid of Microsoft anytime soon. Actually, well, anyways, we're not getting rid of it. And at this point, we've determined that the best option to proceed is to renew the another 3-year agreement with Microsoft as another enterprise agreement. And this obviously requires us to go to the board based upon the dollar threshold. So during last year's approval of the payment, it was brought up by the board to consider when we're coming up on the thing or on the renewal to look at potential different licenses to use, other contract types to potentially reduce costs, consolidate services, et cetera. We determined that the biggest cost savings or cost change could be made in how our local office licenses are dealt with. So Microsoft has a cloud version of Office, and then they have the local desktop version of Office. The desktop version of Office has kind of been what the go-to has been to, primarily because a high percentage, most of our files are still stored on a local file server. So accessing it via local Office is the easiest and best way to do that. There's quite a process for accessing a local file in the cloud. So that would be the biggest cost reduction, but removing local Office at this point with our files still stored locally would cause a big change in how people are accessing stuff. It would cause a lot of probably panic with users and trying to figure out how to do that. So at this point, with the vast majority of our files still living on the local file server, we've determined that getting rid of local Office for most, if not all of our users at this point would not be a feasible option and would cause way too much overhead for the IT team, for people in learning. How to do that, and just changing Office types there's a lot of different events that occur with special project assignments, promotions, acting roles, things like that, that may call us to have to switch licenses back to get access to those certain applications again. All those type of things at this point just don't seem feasible. We are currently engaged in what will be a multi-year project for hopefully migrating most, if not all, of our files from the on-premise server into SharePoint Online. At that point, looking into moving to cloud-only licenses will make a lot more sense and potentially have that cost savings and a benefit to the organization. I had a brief conversation offline with Commissioner Rowland, and he also mentioned some other types of potential licensing options, which may offer different options for us to proceed with. I talked with CDW about that, and they did present the CSP, which is their cloud solutions provider, and what a lot of people are moving to. Everything's going subscription based at this point, so they make it a lot more, they give you shorter term agreements. They make it a little more flexible for being able to change licenses either on a shorter term or whenever you want, depending upon the terms that you go with. But with a like-to-like comparison and keeping on-premise Office, it ends up being a more expensive option at this point, and it's subject to price increases whenever Microsoft and or CDW decide to change that price. So the EA, the enterprise agreement, ends up locking in pricing for 3 years, and it still does have a true up period at the end of every year where you can make some slight changes, not as many, but does give you a little bit of that. With the current project that's going on, in talking with the vendor, we're probably looking at least 1.5 to 2 years before that's complete. I think the best option at this point is to continue that 3-year enterprise agreement with the licensing we have. The main differences that we're making, we did end up doing some slight changes to the current enterprise agreement, mainly with getting rid of some various obsolete licenses that I'm not exactly sure why they were there. So we've kind of gotten into 2 different license types, mainly for the volunteers and chaplains being one, and then everybody else is kind of on one type of license. So we did do some cleanup there, but overall it remains pretty much unchanged. So the financial aspect, we're looking at a 3-year agreement. So it's over the course of 3 years, $453,722.28 in 3 annual payments. and these services are included in the current 2025 adopted budget. So we are just looking for board approval to continue that enterprise agreement and try and just get ahead of the ball here, or ahead of the curve, and get that taken care of. So one less thing we have to worry about. That's all I've got. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from the board members? Any questions on this item? If not, I think we are ready for action on it.
Yeah.
I'll move that we approve the 3-year renewal of the Microsoft EA in the amount of $453,722.30 in the quote from CDW Government. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded by Commissioner Fernhoff. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. That moves us forward in the agenda then to item 11B, which is the 2025 Public Safety Telecommunicators Week resolution. And I believe we have our Communications Director, Ms. Veely, with us to talk about this. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much. You have a resolution in front of you that would proclaim April 13th through 19th, 2025 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in support of the important work of dispatchers and other members of the Snohomish County 911 team. Snohomish County 911 plays a vital role in emergency response across the county. They are the people who are a lifeline to those who are calling 911 for help before firefighters can arrive at the scene, and they play a very important role in our response. We recognize this critical role and thank everyone at Snohomish County 911 for their service. And we would recommend that you adopt the resolution as presented.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board on this issue? If not, I'll move the adoption of resolution 04012025-07, recognizing Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded by Commissioner Fernhoff to adopt that resolution. Is there discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yeah, I just want to say that it's really important that we do recognize these folks for the hard work that they do. We call ourselves first responders, right? That go out there and are paws on the ground and dealing with things, but there are people behind the scenes and at various levels that endure lots of stress and PTSD. And so this is really important.
Other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. I'd like to, if without objection, read into the record the resolution, which states, whereas public safety telecommunicators serve the residents of Snohomish County by responding to requests for emergency aid around the clock with professionalism, compassion, and commitment to the steadfast pursuit of their goal of saving lives and property. And whereas telecommunicators at Snohomish County 911 are the crucial first contact our residents have with emergency services, answering calls for help, gathering essential information, and ensuring appropriate assistance is provided. And whereas telecommunicators are the vital link between 911 callers and first responders who depend and rely on the quality and accuracy of information and monitoring of emergency activities to ensure the safety of responders and the public. And whereas telecommunicators have played a key role in skillfully implementing protocols and adeptly meeting many new challenges to protect the public and first responders during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas telecommunicators have saved countless lives by providing prompt, effective, and compassionate care to our residents as unseen first responders in emergency situations. And whereas telecommunicators deserve our heartfelt appreciation for their invaluable and dedicated service. Now, therefore, the Snohomish County Fire Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims April 13 through 19, 2025 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our community, residents, and employees safe every day of the year. Approve this date. Thank you. Thank you. All right, that moves us forward in the agenda to item 11C, which is the South County Fire SCEMSA caucus representation issue. And if you will recall, we approved the, I don't know if I'm saying that right, SCEMSA, but we used to say SCEMS, but now it's SCEMSA, I guess. But the new Snohomish County EMS agency, we approved that interlocal on February 18, 2025. As part of that, in bylaws, article number 4 governs the 7th seat on the board. So there are 7 seats. Seats 1 through 6 are filled by fire chiefs from across the county based on size of agency. South County Fire, Chief Ice Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, South County Fire has one of those seats, one of those 1 through 6.
I believe that's correct.
In addition, there's seat 7, and seat 7 is reserved for an elected member of any of the member agencies. So that would be any of the, basically all of the fire districts in Snohomish County are members of the organization. So any of the elected fire commissioners from any of the agencies in Snohomish County, including South County Fire, are eligible to serve on seat 7. In addition to any of the elected officials from the cities of Everett and Mukilteo are also eligible. In order to decide who amongst all of those people will be the sit in seat number 7 on the board, and there is also a alternate to that seat. There's going to be a caucus. There's a caucus for each of the seats 1 through 6. I don't know if it's for each of them or some of them may be grouped in categories. But there's a caucus for this elected seat, and that caucus is going to occur this coming Thursday night at 7:15 p.m. here in this room. It's going to be a hybrid meeting. It's right after the Snow Isle Fire Commissioners meeting, which we're hosting here at 7 p.m. Also on Zoom, and then at 7:15 p.m. That meeting will end, and this caucus of elected members of SCEMSA to fill seat number 7 will occur. The reason why this matters to us is that each agency in this ILA gets to vote in that caucus, but the agency gets 1 vote. So it's not how many of the commissioners from your agency show up and they each get a vote. It's your agency gets 1 vote. And so then the agencies gather and then the agencies vote if there's a contested election. I've heard of 1 candidate that is interested in running. So it may be a moot issue if there's not more than 1 or 2, because remember there's a alternate position. So if there's 3 or more, then I guess the voting will matter more. But anyways, there will be this vote. Anyways, we need to appoint someone to carry our vote and conduct a vote on our behalf, our representative to do that at the meeting on Thursday night. This kind of came on kind of fast. But my understanding is all 7 positions, all of their caucuses are happening this coming Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it may be Wednesday, Thursday, but it's like this Wednesday, Thursday, and they're settling the board over that day or that 2 days. I'm hopeful that the next time this comes around, there'll be a little more notice to be able to see this coming a little sooner in advance, but it is what it is. So my suggestion is that we vote and appoint somebody to carry our vote to this caucus on Thursday night at 7:15. And I would just offer that I'm the treasurer of Snow Isle. I'm already going to be there. I'm happy to have somebody else take the vote.
I nominate you.
I'm happy to have somebody else take the vote, but you do have to attend if you're going to take the vote. Commissioner Lawrence.
Okay. I'll take the vote, whatever that means. But out of all the commissioner agencies that will be here Thursday night, someone out of that group is going to be elected to be on the seat on the board of.
Yes. Yes, to
Okay.
seat number 7 on the SCEMSA
And how
board.
often does that organization going to meet? SCEMSA? Any
The
idea?
best, the
anyone?
best I know is monthly.
Monthly? See, I could handle that, yeah. But I could be the whatever you want for Thursday, because I plan on being here anyway, so.
You got to be here.
Well, yeah, I was planning
Okay.
without even,
Got to be present, present to win.
yeah, but I'm still not sure what you're talking about, but we can fill that in Thursday.
Okay.
I'll do whatever it is.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Teal.
I think having you, Jim, be the person that speaks for us or votes for us makes the most sense. And Mark can be a candidate if he wants. Yep.
Whatever.
Okay.
Whatever Jim wants.
Well, I'm happy to do that for you if you'd like. But we'll need a motion to do something.
All right, I'll make a motion to have Jim be our vote person at the
Caucus.
caucus on Thursday night.
Okay. So moved and seconded to appoint Commissioner Kenny as the represent and vote at the SCEMSA electeds caucus on Thursday night. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to, oh, sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
I was just saying, you're the only one knows what you're talking about. So I'm not sure you do either, on this, thing, but I'll be there Thursday night for whatever.
All right, any other discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That sounds good. And yeah, like I said, I'm hopeful that next time it will be, there'll be a little more notice, so it'll be a little smoother and not come up so quickly. And if you're interested in running, there's currently only one person that's put their name in, so we can talk about it afterwards.
What for?
Okay,
We'll
great.
duke it out.
Thank you. All right, moving forward in the agenda then. We have committee updates, item number 12, starting with Capital Facilities Plan Committee, Commissioner Lawrence.
Nothing to report.
All right, that takes us then to Finance and Human Resources, Commissioner Teoflo.
Yeah, we met on March 20th. Is that right? Feels like a long time ago. But we spoke about the Linwood tax increment area, and I believe we spoke about having a conversation with Linwood to have us not as impacted by that. Is that right? Then we talked about our investments, and we saw a statement of our various individual investments. And everything looked good to me.
That sounds good. Thank you. Intergovernmental, Commissioner Wittes is not with us tonight.
Party in Washington, D.C.
I don't think we have anybody else that knows anything about that. Okay, well, they're doing their intergovernmental thing tonight, back in Washington DC, representing
Yeah.
South County Fire at a conference back there. So they're hard at work.
Junket, I think.
Better than me. All right, lastly, from committees, we have Snow 911, Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yes, good evening. Commissioners, you'll have in your inbox the cover sheet for an updated interlocal agreement. The interlocal agreement covers participation between the existing Snow 911 board and the participating agencies, plus the addition, that's the Snohomish County EMS Task Force, and plus the addition of SCEMSA, which we've discussed here as part of their agreement to house in the new facility this agency and continue the operations that they're currently engaged in. Most of the ILA is actually, this is supposed to be a red line copy, but I think all they did was adjust the date on the cover. So this will be going forward for every participating agency's signature, and I believe the action is required by May 15th. I don't believe the board, will the board need to sign off on this, or is this something that just our agency head signs off on?
I believe the
well,
board.
The board will, right?
If it's an ILA, they will
Yeah,
have to
so
approve.
this will come to our attention here soon.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll want to have that on one of the, Ms. Blankenship will want to have on one of the upcoming agendas.
And we'll meet again this month, and we we have a slight hiccup. I was sent an email recently that our go date, what they call the razor cutoff date for the new communication system, which is April 8th, may be slightly delayed. They're working out some issues that have popped up. They didn't discuss any smoke rising or anything like that, but there is definitely some bugs in the system that they have to work out before they can officially do it. So our April 8th date for sliding into the new communication system, which is the digital TDMA P25 Phase 2 system, may be slightly delayed. We'll get back to you. As they say, your mileage may vary.
Great, thank you. Okay, that moves us forward then to commissioner comments, and had a couple of things I wanted to mention to the board. Just in passing, I wanted to let you know that I've heard that over at Surfer, Chief Kevin O'Brien is retiring. I'm not quite sure how soon that is, but retiring. I'm sorry? July 15, okay, coming up pretty soon. And they also have a new commissioner over there who, he was actually in the paper, and so they've got a new, one new commissioner that they've added over there at Surfer, so just FYI. We received an email from Alicia Crank at Northwest Civic Circle about doing a online Zoom, like I guess like question and answer with her. The chief has previously done one. Ms. Veely was part of it. The Edmond City representatives have done a separate one, and then some of the electeds from our contract cities have also done one. And so now Ms. Crank is requesting that the board participate in one. And so I did respond to her and said I volunteered us and said we wouldn't say no. And so, but I asked her what the logistics looked like. And she said this would be essentially a Zoom meeting that's recorded. And she is interested in doing something over this weekend or Monday, Tuesday. So pretty short timeline. So I just wanted to get a bug in your ear on that as you think about it. And if you are interested, I'll probably send out an email looking for volunteers. I really need to talk with her about more like narrow that down and like exactly what is she looking for. We can't, my suggestion is that we not have more than 3 commissioners there, because if we have 3, if we go to 4, then it's a majority and we'd have to note a special meeting, and that probably doesn't make the most sense. Although we could, but it gets more involved if we do that. Be easier if it was 3 or less. So I just wanted to kind of potentially temper your enthusiasm if everybody wanted to show up. But let me get some more details from her about exactly what the commitment is, and then I'll let you know, and then we'll kind of sort out who's willing, who wants to go and do it. But it'd be a good opportunity for us to kind of get our speak about our vision related to the Edmonds annexation. Commissioner Tiafle.
So what this is for like voters to ask questions?
I don't think so. Ms. Veely can help us with that, but I think it's my recollection, because I went to, she separately, Ms. Crank separately hosted a community event. I think it's going to be questions from her, but also questions that may have come in ahead of time. I don't think it's going to be like a direct confrontation of somebody like in person asking a question, but I could be wrong. Ms. Veely?
No, you're exactly right. The format has been that she allows some questions to be submitted ahead of time. And then questions are not allowed during the actual exchange. She is the only person that asks the questions, though there may be an audience online that is watching live. After the conversation is over, she then posts it online so that people can view it later.
Go ahead.
I've always been of the opinion that our staff are the best communicators. They're doing this full time. We're not full time. Everyone's different in their knowledge, but I would prefer staff to be like the people that are representing our organization to the voters. That's my opinion.
Okay. Commissioner Lawrence?
Yeah, what's this organization, Northwest? What's it all about?
Northwest Civic Circle, it is a, like, how can I best describe it? It's a community interest group run by Ms. Crank, who's an Edmonds resident, trying to promote civic conversation on like local issues. So she and her group, which is, as far as I can tell, mostly her. She's a former candidate for Edmonds City Council. She has run a consulting group in Edmonds before, and she is very engaged in the community. And she put on a pro-con committee like discussion with questioning, which was, I want to say about a month ago on a Saturday. And actually it was very well run, and it was videotaped, and I didn't go watch it online, but I was there. And it was respectful and kind of, did not engage the most populist
Crank ideas.
desires of people to complain about things. It was, professional and respectful, but like got to the issues, both pro and con of the annexation. And so, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was pretty good. But this is like, I believe she started it in November, so it's new, but trying to engage the community. Go ahead.
So yeah, I think a couple of the elected officials, but some staff to help out when we make a mistake or when we don't know something that they're asking. At least one of the assistant chiefs anyway.
Well, I'll get more details and send them out. But at the time, I just wanted the timeline's fairly short, so.
Yeah, I'm
If it
willing,
happens, it
I'm
happens
willing to do
forever.
it.
All right. I did want to note that we have Commissioners Chan, Wittes, and Rowland are excused tonight. They are representing South County Fire in Washington DC, back there at a conference on behalf of South County Fire.
Working hard.
I'm sure they're working hard. Better them than me. So, I think that's, and I did mention the SCEMSA, and Snow Isle Fire Commissioners and SCEMSA caucus is here Thursday night, hybrid meeting in person in this room or online. I sent you out the Zoom link. I'll send it again tonight if you're interested in watching or coming here. And that's 7 and 7:15 for the caucus this coming Thursday. I think that's everything I've got for commissioner comments. Other commissioner comments, Commissioner Teoflat.
Our spring workshop, June 3rd.
Yes, I knew I forgot something. June 3rd. So that was as Ms. Blankenship kind of put out the potential dates and looking at the options, that was the least, I don't want to say least bad, but kind of least bad of the day. I couldn't find a date where everybody was available. And so there was just one commissioner that wasn't available that day. And he might actually become available by Zoom if it's that day. So that turned out to be Tuesday, June 3rd, the best day. So I wanted to see, do you think that would work? Go ahead.
And so we would not have an evening meeting.
Great point. Yes. One thing about having it that day, it's like, well, we don't really want to have the night meeting. I know Commissioner Lawrence doesn't want to have the night meeting. I think it means we would need to bring whatever we were doing for the night meeting into the day meeting. There is a downside to that, and that is that it takes up some of our think time or the time that would otherwise be available to look at longer term issues, which I really value in the spring workshop might be taken up with more day-to-day or week-to-week kind of things coming from the night meeting to the day meeting. But I know you don't want to be here all day and then be here all night. So I kind of feel like, yeah, let's just bring the night stuff into the day. That might, in my mind, it might cut in half our really useful time, but I feel like we'll get at least 4 hours of time thinking about issues for the future, which is important for the chiefs, because I think Chief Eastman is planning on that time to bring to a head some of these organizational issues that we've been talking about, not necessarily for a vote that day, but like to gel it together and queue it up for a vote subsequently thereafter. So I think the time is going to be well spent. We just may not have as much of it because we bring the night meeting into the day, but I don't see a way to do it otherwise unless you really want to spend all day, all night. and I kind of figured you didn't. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. To me, it does, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, let's make the agenda though for that night meeting or the annual regular meeting really itty bitty short, like.
Yes, we can. I mean, we can try, but there will invariably be some, like paying the bills and there may be just some other things that come up. It's like,
Yeah,
just-
and one thing too, we can accomplish a lot. There's just a, oh, never mind. I won't say that.
any other? Yes, go ahead. Oh, this Thursday, the SCEMSA. Yeah, oh yeah, both of those are open. Yeah, either on Zoom or in person. It's a hybrid meeting. Yeah. But for the June 3 workshop, Liaison Kircher, are you able to make it for that? June 3?
I will be there.
You will? Excellent. And Liaison Swisher, would you be able to make it for that Tuesday, June 3?
Yes, I would.
Okay,
Oh, yes.
all right.
Oh, there's somebody behind those letters.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let's plan for that then. That's settled then. We'll do Tuesday, June 3, probably start at 9 o'clock. Plan to run till about 4. A lot of times we end a little bit early. And then we will be canceling the night meeting. So you can plan on that. Commissioner Teoflack.
So would the meeting, the regular meeting start at like 2? So you give like 2 hours for that, or when would that start?
3.
I mean, we'll actually just the regular meeting stuff. We'll
At the
probably
beginning?
Well, we'll just blend it in at some point.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm probably going to reserve the morning stuff for our longer term.
Yeah.
Visioning and visioning long-term strategic because I kind of feel like our first hours of the day are sometimes our best hours of the day before lunch particularly. And so I'd like to have those hours be focused on some of those I just see them as bigger ticket issues. Not that the day-to-day stuff isn't important, but like we don't get a lot of this time is a really good, important time. I want to use that for these bigger ticket issues. Do that first. Maybe hit the day-to-day stuff later in the day. It's kind of my
Yeah.
thought.
But we have
But-
to have a time for the regular meeting because staff needs to like set their schedules that day, right?
Well, I'll definitely want to work it out with the chief for that, but I just feel like we'll work it out and it'll happen.
We got some
sometime.
time until we get there, yeah.
Yeah, we'll sort it out. But the important thing is that the night meeting will go away. Okay. Could be a little more competitive. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments about spring workshop? And Commissioner Teofleck, thanks for bringing that up because I know that was on that was an important thing that I intended to bring up. Very good. Okay, so that's everything I have for commissioner comments. Other commissioner comments? Any other commissioner comments? No? Okay, great.
Great job.
That brings us forward in the agenda we have nothing left. We have our adjournment. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, 7 PM. Do remember that in addition to that SCEMSA meeting, Snohomish meeting, 7 o'clock this Thursday, I'm trying to remember Ms. Blankenship or Chief Isotelo, maybe you can help me, Chief Anderson. There is a Edmonds community meeting this coming Saturday at 10 a.m. at Edmonds Woodway High School.
Correct, 10 a.m.
10 a.m. if you are interested in attending.
And then another meeting on a Thursday night, next Thursday, is
But
that
not-
right?
Not this Thursday.
Not this Thursday,
It's the
next Thursday.
Subsequent Thursday, yeah. 10:30 a.m. Edmonds Woodway High School if you're interested. So it's another community meeting? 10 a.m. The Edmonds community meeting about the annexation.
Oh.
Another one of those. So with that, we have no other business. So without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
We're just gonna have our break.
Hey, we were just.